story tonight on Gravitas gives you rare insight into Israel and Iran's spy wars. What goes on behind the scenes? We get you untold stories, something that will leave you wondering, what's next? This and more is a part of our top story tonight, and here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. The nightmare is unfortunately back in Delhi. Toxic foam seen floating on the Yamuna River. The air is once again turning toxic. Air quality has dropped to the very poor category already. Why should the people of Delhi go through this year after year? The race to the White House is only heating up. What role do the undecided voters play in the election? We tell you all about this. How long are you allowed to hug at the New Zealand airport? Is there a time limit? There is now. We tell you why. All this and more coming up. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about Israel and Iran and their toxic covert spy wars. You see, after years of fighting a war in the shadows, the conflict between Israel and Iran is out in the open. All eyes are on Israel as the world waits to see what its next move will actually be. Will Israel strike Iran? How will Iran retaliate once that strike occurs? Could this conflict spark World War III? All this speculation is based on observable events. But what's overlooked in a way is that this conflict runs much deeper than what you may have read or seen on TV or what you might be thinking. Tonight on Gravitas, we will explore just how deep this runs. From cryptocurrency exchanges to espionage operations, here's how Israel and Iran have been waging a hidden war beyond the naked eye in the shadows. The Israeli police and the Shin Bet domestic intelligence agency say they have arrested a network of Israeli citizens for allegedly spying for Iran. You are hearing that correctly. They say that Israelis have been paid hundreds of thousands of pounds in cryptocurrency by Iran to take photographs of sensitive Israeli military sites and collect information on them. In fact, the investigators reportedly claimed the network had been active for about 2 years. According to reports in the Israeli press, the suspects are accused of photographing and collecting information about Israeli bases and facilities, including the defense headquarters in Tel Aviv, known as the Kiryat, and the Nevatim and Ramat David air bases. Now, here's the kicker. The Nevatim air base, targeted this month by the Iranian ballistic missiles, remember, and the Golani training base, where 4 soldiers died due to a Hezbollah drone strike, were all surveyed by supposed Iranian spies. Now, the Israeli authorities have arrested 7 Jewish citizens from the northern city of Haifa. The arrested include an army deserter and 2 minors. All were arrested after an investigation by Shin Bet, that is Israel's domestic intelligence agency. Reports describe the individuals arrested as Jewish immigrants from Azerbaijan. According to a statement released on Monday, the 7 Israeli citizens were arrested for gathering sensitive information on Israel Defense Forces bases and energy infrastructure. According to Israeli newspaper Haaretz, the suspects allegedly received hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash transfers from Russian intermediaries as well as in cryptocurrencies. 3 of the suspects were apprehended while allegedly photographing sensitive sites in southern Israel. The Israeli police also reportedly discovered dozens of documents in their possession. Israeli investigations revealed that over a period of more than 2 years, the suspects executed multiple security missions under the direction of 2 Iranian intelligence agents known as Al-Khan and Orkhan. Al-Khan and Orkhan. The network essentially conducted extensive reconnaissance missions on IDF bases nationwide, focusing on Air Force and Navy installation ports, Iron Dome system locations, energy infrastructure, such as the Hadera power plant. Now, these arrests highlight the escalating spy war in West Asia at a time when Israel is preparing to respond to Iran's salvo of ballistic missiles. On Friday, top-secret U.S. documents containing details of Israeli military drills rehearsing retaliatory strikes were leaked to pro-Iranian social media. This was the most serious breach of security yet. According to investigators in Israel, Iran appears to have recruited dozens of agents by preying upon the homeless, drug addicts, and criminals. This is one of the most serious security cases investigated in recent years. News of the alleged network of Iran-recruited spies follows the arrest of an Israeli businessman accused of spying for Iran in September, remember. According to the allegations against him, he had traveled twice to Iran to discuss the possibility of assassinating Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant. In fact, the head of the Israeli Domestic Intelligence Agency, Ronen Bar, was also on the cards, reportedly. Israeli prosecutors say that Iran has hired spies for hire by offering vast sums of cash to ones that can be traitors in their own country. And in doing so, according to a report in the Times, Iran appears to have taken a leaf from Mossad's playbook. Mossad, as you know, is Israel's foreign intelligence agency. The agency is in fact infamous for carrying out covert operations against Iran. Remember, famous Mossad operations in Iran include the execution of an Iranian nuclear scientist using a remote-controlled machine gun. Mossad was also reportedly behind the infection of Iran's nuclear computer network with malware. The Israeli spy agency is also said to be behind the assassination early this year of Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas. His safe house in Tehran was found to have been booby-trapped with explosives. You see, whereas in the past Mossad has recruited Iranians to gather information about the Iranian regime, now latest developments suggesting that Iran is using Mossad's strategy to do the same. So extensive is Israeli espionage in Iran reportedly that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who is the former Iranian president, has complained this month that the country's head of counterintelligence, the agency responsible for rooting out spies, was at one stage found to be a Mossad double agent. Imagine that. Sure, Iran regularly executes suspected traitors, but in recent weeks, the apparent ease with which Israel has been able to allegedly assassinate the Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has led to suspicion of betrayal in Tehran. Just take the example of Ismail Qani. He is the head of the Quds Force. It is the overseas wing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. He disappeared for 3 weeks, leading to rumors that he had been summoned for questioning on suspicion of being a double agent. And then last week, the Iranian spy master eventually surfaced at the funeral of a senior commander, wiping away tears in front of the cameras. In fact, Tehran also denied the reports that Qani was a Mossad spy. Which brings us to today, the latest arrests of alleged Iranian spies in Israel, suggesting that Israel's well-developed intelligence operations targeting Iran, Gaza, Hezbollah have not been a one-way street. Iran and its proxies are reportedly also running similar operations in Israel. While the information we have now may be surprising, one can only wonder about the additional details that remain undisclosed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Kazan, Russia on Tuesday for the 16th BRICS summit. As per reports, his first major meeting was with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, where Prime Minister Modi reportedly once again reiterated India's position that the Russia-Ukraine war should be resolved through peaceful means. He reportedly underscored that India stands ready to offer support in the pursuit of peace. Meanwhile, Putin said that Russia greatly values the joint Indian-Russian cooperation within BRICS, especially since both the countries are the founding members. And during his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister, Putin stated that India stands ready to play whatever role is required for peace. And Prime Minister Modi later took to social media to highlight the takeaways of his meeting with the Russian president. I'm quoting, "Had a wonderful meeting with President Putin. India-Russia relations are deeply rooted. The talks focused on further strengthening bilateral partnership in various sectors." That's what the Indian Prime Minister said in that post on the platform X. And after Putin, Prime Minister Modi and the Iranian president also met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. As per reports, after the meeting with the Iranian president, Prime Minister Modi was also scheduled to have another bilateral meeting. However, as per sources, due to the Iranian president's plane landing late there and the meeting with the Indian Prime Minister getting delayed, his third bilateral meeting could not take place. As per sources, this third bilateral meeting was supposed to take place with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. The possible meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese President, although unconfirmed officially by both sides, has set major buzz because, as per reports, if the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President do sit down for talks, it could mark a pivotal moment in that relationship, a relationship that has been going through a lot of strains since the Galwan Valley clash in the year 2020. Let's just unpack why this meeting, if it were to happen, is so crucial. You see, since the year 2020, India and China have been locked in a tense standoff along the line of actual control, LAC. Tens of thousands of troops have been stationed on both sides, turning what was once a disputed boundary reportedly into a practical de facto militarized zone. For 4 years, any hope of meaningful dialogue between these two sides seemed tough. The trust deficit between New Delhi and Beijing only widened over time. So why are we suddenly seeing an opening for talks? Because you see, things took a turn recently. Both sides agreed to disengage along the LAC, signaling a potential major thaw. Just last month itself, China's defense ministry said it is reducing differences and building some consensus on disengagement in eastern Ladakh. In fact, the Indian Foreign Secretary also echoed similar sentiments, stating that diplomatic and military negotiators from both sides have been in close contact, paving the way for an agreement on patrolling arrangements along the border. But the relationship between India and China has also suffered in the wake of the border tensions in 2020. The national and political expediency also spilled over to other domains. In the year 2020, India banned over 300 Chinese applications, including popular platforms like TikTok and WeChat, citing national security concerns. Major players like BYD, Great Wall Motors reportedly shelved plans for expansion in India, signaling the depth of the mistrust between the two sides. And after the border skirmishes, flights between India and China were grounded. Reports say despite some discussions to resume air connectivity, nothing concrete has materialized. The travel restrictions, coupled with the app bans and the trade barriers, showing just how tense the ties have been. So, could the potential meeting between the two leaders lead to resumption of direct flights? Could Chinese investments once again start flowing into India? Perhaps. But you see, it's far too early to talk about a full reset in relations per se. But the fact that these two leaders could even be planning on sitting down face-to-face suggests that there may be an opening for dialogue. And you see, that is significant in itself. There is hope that the two countries might be able to find some common ground. So can the two sides truly overcome the differences and find a way to coexist peacefully? Only time will tell. Regardless, the potential meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President on the sidelines of the BRICS summit is a step forward and will be a step forward. And my colleague Siddhant Sibal has been tracking those developments very closely on the ground through the day. Sent us this report. Take a look.
Well, as day one of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia concludes, the big focus was on the two bilateral meetings. His meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin and his meeting with the Iranian President. Now, when it comes to Iran, India has focus on connectivity, especially through the Chabahar port. Also, his meeting will be closely watched in West Asia, where crisis has erupted for last 1 year, and what is conversed in this meeting will be especially closely watched in Israel. Now, with Russia, we know that India and Russia have close relationship. There's several pillars to this relationship, whether it's defense, whether it's energy, whether it's people-to-people relationship. And of course, amidst the Ukraine war, this is a meeting that will be closely watched again, especially in Kyiv. We know that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been on a bilateral visit both to Moscow and Kyiv, and India has made it clear that it would not like to mediate, but of course it can send messages to both the capitals and emphasize on dialogue and diplomacy. Other than that, we know that later today there will be an informal dinner of the BRICS leaders, where of course speculations are that the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President Xi Jinping could have an informal conversation, something we have seen during previous summits like the G20 summit in Bali, or of course the BRICS summit in South Africa. But all in all, it looks like that there is a Kazan thaw in India-China relationship. Tomorrow could be a big day, not only in terms of India-China relationship, but also in terms of the BRICS summit, where the focus is on expansion and also on alternate payments mechanism, something that reduces dependency on Western payment system. With video journalist Ajit Siddhant Sibal for WION in Kazan, Russia.
And we will be keeping a close eye on those developments coming in from Kazan. Shifting focus for now, the Rana, who played a key role in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, looks set for extradition to India. It is reportedly imminent. The Rana is a Canadian-Pakistani citizen. According to Indian newspaper, the Indian Express, the Indian government has started making preparations for him to be handed over by the United States. In fact, the report says that Rana could be extradited latest by the second half of December. And if this happens, it would be a big development for India. It would mean that the last criminal of 26/11 is set for extradition. The meeting follows the denial of Rana's request on September 23rd by the U.S. Court of Appeals just the previous month. On August 15, the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in California upheld the district court's decision to deny Rana's habeas corpus petition. The court stated that India provided enough reliable evidence to support the magistrate judge's finding of probable cause that Rana committed the charged crimes. And now Rana reportedly has a 45-day window to appeal against the extradition ruling before the top court. And after that, the extradition may at best get delayed by another 45 days till his last-ditch appeal is waived off. But that rarely happens, according to the report. According to the U.S. government's court's website on procedures, the Supreme Court accepts only 100 to 150 of the more than 7,000 cases it is asked to review each year. That means approximately only 2% of the cases are accepted. The Indian media report also saying that officials, including those from the central investigative agencies and legal departments of both countries, recently held a meeting in this regard at the US Embassy in New Delhi. And in the meeting, which reportedly lasted around 3 hours, Rana's extradition was a key point of discussion. The talks reportedly focused on what preparations and logistics need to be put in place by the Indian government in order to facilitate the extradition. They also reportedly discussed Rana's jail arrangements once he arrives. Now, here's what you must know about Rana. The 63-year-old was a childhood friend of David Headley. Headley, remember, is an American citizen. He was born to an American mother and a Pakistani father. He was arrested in October 2009 by American authorities and sentenced to 35 years in prison for his involvement in the Mumbai attacks. Meanwhile, Rana studied at the Hassan Abdul Cadet School in Pakistan. Headley too attended this school for 5 years. After a stint as a doctor in the Pakistan Army, Rana moved to Canada and was eventually granted Canadian citizenship. He later established a consultancy firm called First World Immigration Services in Chicago. It was a branch of this business in Mumbai that provided Headley with the perfect cover, reportedly, to identify and surveil potential targets for the Pakistani terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba. In the 26/11 attacks, which took place on November 26, 2008, LET terrorists stormed into Mumbai. The Pakistani terrorists came to India via boats, and for 3 consecutive days, Mumbai was in the grip of terror. The violence claimed the lives of 166 people, including 6 Americans. Rana was arrested by American police soon after Headley's arrest at Chicago's airport in October 2009. And in 2011, he was convicted in Chicago of providing material support to the LET for the India attack and for supporting the never-carried-out plot to attack a Danish newspaper. It printed cartoons of the Prophet in 2005. However, jurors in the US cleared Rana of a more serious charge of providing support for the attacks in Mumbai. Headley told prosecutors that in July 2006, he had traveled to Chicago to meet Rana and told him of the mission that the LET had assigned him. Rana approved Headley's plan reportedly to establish a First World Immigration Services Center in Mumbai and helped him obtain a 5-year business visa. While deposing via video link at the Bombay City Civil and Sessions Court in February 2016, Headley claimed that he had informed Rana of his activities only a few months before the attacks in November 2008. In 2011, the Indian National Investigation Agency, NIA, filed a charge sheet against 9 people, including Rana. He was charge sheeted for planning and executing the attack. And in the year 2014, a sessions court in Delhi issued fresh non-bailable warrants against the men whom the NIA had listed as absconders. Years after the horror of the attacks and years of efforts by the Indian government to nab the accused, it looks like the final 26/11 criminal may be brought to justice soon. Moving on to the United States, for now, hidden votes will elect the next US president, it seems. And the reason we are saying that is because with barely 2 weeks to go for that electoral contest to unfold, both the candidates are sharpening their closing pitches. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and the Republican nominee Donald Trump are making their last-ditch attempts to woo a section of voters. We are talking about the undecided voters. Who are they and how will they shape the election? Let's break it down for you. Now, you may have heard pollsters talk at length about how the elections could ride on the back of undecided Americans. These are voters who are neither in favor of Harris nor Donald Trump. Undecided voters are those who are still sitting on the fence in a way. But the answer to why they are still undecided depends on many complex issues. The reasons are many. It's because they cannot decide between who to vote, or is it because they cannot decide if they even want to vote? Both could be true. That's why this is a complex issue. And that is why both the candidates are wooing them, trying hard, so that they can vote for them. Both the Trump and Harris campaigns are focusing their energies on undecided voters by putting them in two categories: persuadable and irregular. It starts with the basic question: can I persuade them to vote for me? If yes, then the strategy can be built a certain way around them. These are the voters that get maximum media attention, by the way. Then we have the irregulars, those who do not go to the polls. These voters can shape the election because the non-habitual voters swing back and forth. You see, this happens because many undecided voters are unsure if voting is even worth their time and effort. They wonder, will the singular vote even count? Will the vote make any difference? Or their simple contention could be, why should I vote for Harris, or why should I vote for Trump? That's a legitimate concern as well. If a voter believes that neither can make a difference, that's a decision as well. Either way, both the candidates building their strategies around the undecided voters in the hopes of bringing them on their side. Now, here's why the undecided voters are important. In interviews, Harris and Trump advisors have told media outlets about just who they think are still up for grabs. And here's what both the camps have observed. A majority of the undecided voters are young people with a disproportionate share of Black and Latino voters. Meanwhile, the Harris campaign believes it can still win over some white, college-educated voters, particularly women. These are voters who have historically voted Republican, but do not necessarily prefer Donald Trump. In fact, reports suggest undecided voters make up a small fraction of the overall electorate, which is just between 2% and 5%, depending on the poll. A poll analysis in the battleground states from the New York Times and Siena College revealing a mere 3.7% of voters, which is about 1.2 million people, were still truly undecided. Based on another analysis by the Times, Black voters make up about 21% of those undecided. And these polls help campaign strategists understand what they are up against, what's the challenge. They can start by asking the questions. Why are so many Black voters undecided, for example? Now, you may be thinking, if these voters have not made up their minds yet, why are the two campaigns, why are the two candidates so invested in winning them in the first place? Why should both camps reboot their respective strategies for them? Why spend hundreds of millions of dollars in campaigns to persuade them? Well, the answer is quite simple. Like we said before, not deciding to vote for either may just be a decision in itself. It is like making a political statement in itself. For Harris and Trump, that sounds like a major opportunity. It means that both Harris and Trump can move beyond their traditional vote base and try and influence this particular section of undecided voters. They can work towards helping them make a decision in their favor. Let's also give you some recent poll updates. So far, it's a neck-and-neck competition between Harris and Trump, with several opinion polls suggesting that the two are deadlocked in a tight race. According to ABC News poll, in the national poll averages, Harris is leading with 48%, whereas Trump is standing at 46%, a thin margin between the two, as you can see, and the gap seems to be narrowing. Even in 7 swing states, the race is extremely tight, with neither of the candidates enjoying a decisive lead as per the polling averages. Now, while these polls show the popularity of the candidates across the country, they cannot necessarily predict the election results all that accurately, which is where the undecided voters come in as a key deciding factor for the elections. But what do these undecided voters want from their elected leader? What are the key issues that they face? What are their concerns? As per research conducted by Trump's team, the undecided voters seem to be particularly focused on the economy. They want better jobs, improved working conditions, financial benefits. They also seem to be concerned with immigration, inflation, prices of groceries, housing issues of basic sustenance, living standards, well-being. These are legitimate concerns and demands to have. In an election as close as the polls are predicting, every vote counts, every opinion matters in shaping the future of the country. As the countdown is nearing, will the Harris or Trump camp win over the undecided voters is the question. And the answer will come on the 5th of November. And moving on to some breaking news coming in right this minute from Kazan, Russia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to meet tomorrow, that is the 23rd of October, Wednesday. Now, after the meeting with the Iranian president on Tuesday, on the sidelines of the BRICS summit, Prime Minister Modi, remember, was also scheduled to have another bilateral meeting, like we just told you. And now, as we are learning, the very latest telling us that the meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President, which was expected to take place, there was speculation. We were also picking up that there will be a strong possibility of the meeting happening. Now, there is information coming in that the meeting between the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping will be taking place tomorrow. That is the 23rd of October, Wednesday. This meeting will take place in Kazan, Russia. Remember, the expectations are immense, coming at a time when we are seeing a thaw in a way in that relationship between India and China. So this meeting comes with a whole set of expectations, also major implications for the relationship between the two sides, between the two leaders, coming at a very crucial point. And what would this meeting mean, and what would the takeaways mean for the relationship and for the people of the two countries? And we will be closely following those developments coming in from Kazan, Russia. Shifting focus for now to a severe cyclonic storm, which is expected to make landfall in India in less than 48 hours along the coast of West Bengal and Odisha. It is likely to bring heavy rainfall and strong winds across both the Indian states for at least 3 days from October 24 to 27. According to reports, the cyclone poses a serious threat to several districts in West Bengal. What's more, the Odisha government has put district authorities on high alert and is preparing for potential evacuations in the vulnerable areas. Our next report telling you more. Take a look.
A severe cyclonic storm, Dana, will hit India's coast in 48 hours. It will mostly impact the Indian states of Orissa and West Bengal. Residents have been warned of heavy to very heavy rainfall in both the states. The Orissa government has asked schools and colleges in all 14 likely affected districts of Orissa to remain closed during the storm duration. Strong winds will accompany the cyclonic storm, with wind speed likely to reach 60 km per hour along and off the Orissa-West Bengal coast from Wednesday, and gradually increase to 100 to 110 km per hour, then 120 km per hour. With the cyclone set to make contact, the Indian Meteorological Department has predicted rainfall of over 21 centimeters in certain areas. It has also issued warnings for fishermen to not venture into the sea this entire week. Tourists have also been encouraged to leave Puri before October 24th to avoid any mishaps. The Weather Department has issued a blanket warning for very heavy rainfall across all districts in Orissa on October 26th. Warnings have been issued for the districts of Puri, Khurda Ganjam, Jagat Singhpur, Kendrapara, Bhadrak, Balasore, Mayurbhanj, Cuttack, among others in Orissa. What's the source of this cyclone Dana? A low-pressure area over the Bay of Bengal is likely to turn into a severe cyclone by October 23rd. It is expected to reach the coasts of adjoining states of Orissa and West Bengal the next day. IMD DG on Sunday said that Orissa is likely to bear the maximum brunt of the cyclonic storm. However, assuring citizens, Chief Minister of Orissa, Mohan Charan Majhi, has set a zero casualty target ahead of the cyclone Dana, which will hit the coast on October 24th. As part of measures to tackle the severe cyclone, teams of Orissa Disaster Rapid Action Force have been deployed in Cuttack. National Disaster Response Force and ODRAF have been kept on standby in various vulnerable districts. Major damage may occur to thatched houses, huts. Rooftops may blow off and metal sheets may fly. Therefore, as a relief measure, 800 shelters have been established for people who will be evacuated from these areas. Meanwhile, in the capital city of West Bengal, Kolkata, airport authorities have begun preparations to deal with the incoming storm. The Indian Coast Guard is leaving no stone unturned in preparing for its response measures. It is on high alert, mobilizing its vessels and aircraft to respond to any emergency. The ICG has deployed helicopters and remote operating stations at Haldia in West Bengal and Paradip in Odisha to broadcast regular weather warnings. It isn't just Bengal and Odisha that will be affected by the storm. Jharkhand and Andhra Pradesh, along with northeastern states of Mizoram, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Nagaland and Manipur will experience heavy rainfall as well.
Let's now shift our focus to a major financial commitment from the UK to Ukraine. As per reports, the British government will lend Ukraine £2.3 billion. That's $2.90 billion. Reportedly, the loan aims to strengthen Ukraine's defense against Russia in the ongoing war. But here's where this gets interesting. As per reports, Ukraine will pay nothing for this loan, but rather, in a way, Russian assets will. Confused? Let's break this down for you. As per reports, profits from frozen Russian assets are expected to cover the repayment. Listen in.
I'm able to announce £2.3 billion of support to Ukraine in the form of a loan that will be paid back by the extraordinary profits being made on frozen Russian assets. So this will ensure that Russian assets frozen in Europe, that the extraordinary profits on that will be used to help fund the war effort in Ukraine.
What triggered this, you must be wondering? Reports say this loan is part of a broader effort led by the G7 countries who collectively pledged $50 billion to Ukraine back in June, remember? The money is reportedly intended to support Ukraine's military efforts, bolster its budget, assist in rebuilding the country. Like we said, Ukraine will not have to repay this debt out of its own pocket. Reports tell us instead the plan involves drawing on profits generated from Russian assets that have been frozen since the war started in February 2022. Remember, countries including the UK have reportedly seized billions in Russian assets as part of sanctions aimed at curbing the Kremlin's war capabilities. According to reports, this loan approach is seen as a strategic way to pay the loan amount without directly handing over the assets to Ukraine, which could potentially spark complex legal battles. A maneuver reportedly designed to avoid litigation. Reports also say the UK's Defence Secretary John Healey emphasised the urgency of this funding. He said, and I'm quoting, "By using the proceeds from these sanctioned Russian assets, we can help shift the balance in Ukraine's favour," quote unquote. Note those words, shift the balance in Ukraine's favour. Will that actually happen is a debate for another day. For now, reports say UK's Finance Minister Rachel Reeves has said that while the exact timeline for disbursement of the loan is not set, the focus is on getting the funds into Ukrainian hands as soon as possible. But what are the implications of all of this? As per reports, the European Union, including G7 members France, Germany, Italy, have said that they will provide the majority of the Russian asset-backed loan up to $39 billion, while Canada has pledged to lend Ukraine $5 billion. However, securing these funds is not without challenges. As per reports, a significant portion of the frozen Russian assets, about $225 billion, is held in the EU, and European sanctions on Russia reportedly must be renewed every 6 months. According to reports, this process requires unanimous support from all 27 EU member states, and this is where it gets tricky. Countries with pro-Moscow leanings, like Hungary reportedly, could potentially block the renewal of these sanctions, jeopardizing the entire repayment plan. Should any member state oppose the renewal, it could lead to the unfreezing of assets, making the repayment of loans far more complex. The US and Japan are reportedly yet to announce their specific contributions to this loan package, though further details are expected to emerge in the coming days, and we will be keeping an eye out on those details. Finance ministers from across the world, including those from the G7 nations, are set to gather in Washington for an International Monetary Fund (IMF) meeting this week. It is during this annual gathering that more clarity may come regarding the full scope of support for Ukraine. For the UK, this $2.90 billion loan is just one part of its broader commitment to Ukraine. In addition to the latest financial aid, the UK has reportedly also pledged $3.90 billion in military assistance, covering everything from weapons and transportation to training Ukrainian forces. To what extent all of this really changes things for Ukraine remains to be seen. It's back. The nightmare has begun for Delhi all over again. Hazy visuals from the capital are set to return to TV screens. Smoky skies are going to be a part of Delhiites' lives once again. If you are in Delhi, I know what you must be thinking. Again? Unfortunately, yes. Again, it's that time of the year after all, not in a good way. Toxic foam was seen floating on the Yamuna River in the Kalindi Kunj area. This happened today, Tuesday. Basically, pollution levels in the river remain high. Not just on Tuesday, something similar happened on Sunday with similar foam being seen. All of this points to a major concern: the rising pollution in the river. There is a lot of foam. Meanwhile, Delhi's air quality dropped to the very poor category on Tuesday with an air quality index or AQI of 385 recorded around 8 a.m. This is according to the Central Pollution Control Board or CPCB. A thick layer of fog was seen in some parts as the air quality continued to worsen. Pollution levels are expected to remain high if the weather conditions do not improve. And with the air quality index in Delhi worsening in the past few days, the Commission for Air Quality Management or CAQM has invoked Stage 2 of the anti-pollution plan GRAP this morning. GRAP stands for Graded Response Action Plan. So what does Stage 2 mean really? Basically, there will be curbs on the use of coal and firewood as well as diesel generator sets in the Delhi National Capital Region. Dust control measures will be brought in at construction and demolition sites. Also, mechanical sweeping, water sprinkling on identified roads will be carried out daily, so on and so forth. People have been advised to use public transport and minimize the use of personal vehicles. Just for context here, these steps are in addition to the GRAP Stage 1 measures. They have been in place since the 15th of October. Now, according to a forecast by the Indian Met Department, IMD, the daily average AQI of Delhi is expected to stay in the very poor category in the coming days. As per the Central Pollution Control Board, an AQI in the severe category can affect healthy individuals and seriously impact those with pre-existing health conditions, while poor and very poor levels can cause respiratory discomfort and illnesses with prolonged exposure. Those from Delhi would unfortunately be far too familiar with these terms. Basically, these are all names of categories, terms used to describe the quality of the air the people in Delhi are breathing. This is about their health, their life, their future. And you know what the most unfortunate part here is? This is a nightmare that repeats on loop for the people of Delhi every year. This is a disaster that comes knocking every year around this time, with the people of Delhi, their lungs bearing the brunt. Why should they have to deal with this over and over again? Moving on, according to a 2023 WHO report, around 3.8% of the world's population, which is approximately 280 million people, suffer from depression. Earlier, the word depression was treated as more of an alien term. People suffering from depression tried to keep it a secret, unfortunately, as much as possible. But now, thankfully, things are changing for the better. There is growing awareness about mental health issues. People have started opening up about their struggles. Many institutes, organizations are conducting studies to treat mental health related issues, including depression. What if I tell you that a new device could help people with depression feel better? That too, in the comfort of their own home. You heard that right. Recently, the University of East London in the UK conducted a clinical trial to test a swimming cap-like device called transcranial direct current stimulation, TDCS. The device basically gently stimulates the areas of the brain linked to mood regulation. This cap delivers weak electrical current through electrodes placed on the scalp. And this electric current used in the treatment is much weaker than the one used in electroconvulsive therapy, a medical procedure that involves inducing a controlled seizure in the brain using electrical stimulation. Electroconvulsive therapy is primarily used to treat severe mental health conditions. To avoid risks from prolonged stimulation, the swimming cap-like device auto-shuts after 30 minutes. As part of the trial, more than 150 people with major depressive disorder took part in the 10-week course. The participants were randomly assigned to two groups, the treatment group and the control group. While the treatment group received electrical brain stimulation as planned, the control group unknowingly received a placebo effect. Their device basically delivered a weak current only at the beginning and end of the session, providing no actual stimulation. Patients who were part of the treatment group were about twice as likely to see their depression go into remission than those in the control group who performed the same procedure with the current switched off. The trial findings suggest that there is a possibility that people with depression could receive beneficial brain stimulation without having to go to a clinic. The treatment could also prove beneficial for patients who do not respond to standard treatments like antidepressants or psychotherapy. While the findings of the study are promising, more research is needed to fully understand the long-term benefits and the risks of this treatment. And if everything goes well, the new device might soon transform the way depression is treated. Is it hard to say goodbye to someone dear to you? Goodbyes are hard. Believe it or not, an international airport in New Zealand plans to make it even more difficult for you by capping the time limit of giving a farewell hug. Let's find out why. What's going on? While emotional farewells are a common sight at airports, travellers leaving the New Zealand city of Dunedin have to be quick. As per the new policy implemented by the International Airport in the South Island, travellers are allowed just 3 minutes to hug or cuddle and have put up a signboard at the drop-off to say just that. Visitors might, however, be asked to move their lingering embraces to the parking lot, where they can cuddle free of charge for up to 15 minutes. Shouting down the critics, Dunedin Airport justified the move, claiming that it was being done to ensure the smooth flow of passengers through the terminal and to prevent congestion.
More loitering, so people taking a bit of extra time in the drop-off zone when they could actually move into the car park, get their 15 minutes free and create space for others. So it's really about opening that up and doing it in a kind of funny kind of southern hospitality way. And having a hug, a 3-minute hug, I think I've said on a previous interview, that's a long hug. I tell you what, you can get a lot of oxytocin and serotonin out of a 3-minute hug. 20 seconds is all you need.
So what are the advantages of hugging? Going by what the airport officer says, 20 seconds, is it all that we need? Researchers say that while a 10-second hug can help the body fight depression and tiredness, a 20-second hug reduces the harmful impact of stress, relieves blood pressure, ensures a healthy heart. Hugging someone releases happy hormones. These include oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. Once the hormones are released into our bodies, we experience feelings of happiness, relaxation, improved mood. So can the new move by the airport result in grumpy passengers rather than happy passengers? How would you feel if this move is implemented at the airport in your city? Do we really need a hug police or a reminder? Let us know what you think. South Korean scientists have developed a transport drone. It's called pallet drone that could potentially elevate one's shopping experience. Where a regular shopping cart comes with its limitations, pallet drone can be used as a flying shopping cart, therefore eliminating the need to push the cart around. Now, like the name suggests, pallet drone is a combination of cargo pallet and multi-rotor drone developed by researchers from the Seoul National University of Science and Technology. Users can basically place cargo on top of the drone and move it around by applying gentle force. Users can even use the flying cart on stairs, something which is not possible with a conventional cart.
Is the newly developed platform to overcome the limitations of the conventional aerial cargo transportation. It contains an exoskeleton, so therefore it is very safe from the human contact, and also it can carry the payload very easily without changing the attitude of the payload, so it can provide a very good potential for future payload transportation.
The research team has developed a new algorithm that calculates the drone's center of mass, which helps maintain its horizontal altitude even while carrying unknown cargo in unexpected positions. The research team has so far tested the proof of concept pallet drone by carrying up to 3 kilograms of cargo. It's certainly not enough for the average weekly grocery shop. Researchers, however, say that pallet drones applications are not limited to transportation. It could also be used for aerial tasks with a robotic arm.
The Paletron is not just a flying shopping cart. It can be used, so using the platform's capacity to maintain its attitude, it could be used as an air taxi industry, or it could be used as a general base platform for future aerial robotic tasks. And we are also developing a new technology called aerial docking, which can dock during the mid-air, and then using those technology, we are now preparing an aerial battery exchange applications, which means that you can maintain a flight even without coming back to the ground and changing the batteries.
Let me ask you this now. How often do you judge a book by its cover? Though beauty is often assumed to be in the eye of the beholder, as they say, the common adage follows certain predictable rules. More often than not, knowing or unknowingly, we tend to evaluate one's personality based on appearance. A study published in the Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization suggests that attractive people are often perceived to be more pro-social. In fact, the study indicated people with beautiful physical features are deemed more helpful, selfless, caring, kind. Researchers say this perspective is twofold, as someone with pro-social qualities is automatically considered attractive. There is an inherent cognitive bias towards beautiful people. Judgment forms quite rapidly and sometimes in a matter of seconds based on a person's physical appearance. Researchers call this bias beauty premium. Now, for the uninitiated, it basically refers to a bias in the favorable treatment of beautiful people who are believed to be trustworthy, confident, and with great social skills. The study says there is a bi-directional relationship between positive traits and physical features. While one can be evaluated as a kind based on superficial skin depth, beauty, on the other hand, understanding of generosity and kindness makes one attractive. So all hope is not lost when it comes to pretty privilege. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. Thanks very much for watching. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists